we're waiting. Okay, hello, welcome everyone. I hope everyone is good. So we are here, avoiding the sun, or patchy sun, that is. And we're here with Georgie Wood for a chat and kind of chatting about anything with PKU. So before I introduce Georgie, or before she introduces herself, just to say, put any questions in the chat as it's going along the bottom ticker here right now. Put any questions in the chat and we will try and answer them, or fudge up an answer to make it seem like we're answering them anyway. So, Georgie, would you like to introduce yourself?
So I'm Georgie, so newly qualified-ish dietitian, earlier this year, qualified in January. But kind of always through my masters. So I did a dietetics master's course at Birmingham City University, and from there, that's where I got a bit of an interest in PKU, and I've done a bit of research in PKU as well. So yeah,
newly-ish qualified. How new are we? How new are we talking?
So qualified in January. So it's been 6-7 months now. Actually, it's gone quite fast. But yeah.
Cool. So if you want people to say hi in the chat, then we can say hi. So I guess the thing to start, because obviously I got born into the condition and didn't have an option of leaving or doing anything like that. So when did you first hear about PKU, and then what drew you to working into the area?
Yeah, so it probably all started when I was doing my master's in dietetics at Birmingham City University. I did a placement with Vitaflow for 2 weeks, and so up until then, really, I didn't really know much about. Kind of feel bad saying it now, but I didn't really know much about PKU and kind of what it was or anything. And so then when I was at Vitaflow, learned a lot about all the different metabolic disorders that they support with their products. And off the back of that, kind of then when I came back to university and was looking at doing my dissertation, I developed this interest in metabolic disorders and PKU. And there was a link between my university and Birmingham Children's Hospital, and with Nita as well. And she had a couple of projects that we could do as part of our dissertation. And so I kind of from then decided to go down that route. And that's probably how I got into PKU. Overall, I guess. So yeah.
So what interested you about dietetics to start off with? To obviously start the masters, what was the health and area always a thing for you, or?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been really into kind of health and nutrition as well. And again, I heard a lot about nutritionists really, but then again, I hadn't overly heard about dietetics that much either. And then as I looked into it more and realised there's this profession out there where you can support patients through with whatever, disorders and anything like that, through kind of using dietetic interventions as well, and kind of using the scientific principles behind nutrition dietetics to really help support patients. That kind of drew me in, I guess, and made me realise, that's something that I'd like to do, and kind of use kind of nutrition to help support people, I suppose.
I think that's what dietitians aim to do, isn't it? So, what did with the Vitaflow placement that you did, kind of thing, and was it just getting to know the products? Was it seeing how the ins and outs kind of worked, and then kind of seeing how they provide for people in a sense? Is that kind of what you took away from it?
Yeah, definitely. So there was an overall kind of with when I was at Vitaflow, I got to kind of see how dietitians work within kind of industry as well. So that was really helpful, because I always kind of thought dietitians generally worked in hospitals, but then seeing how dietitians work at Vitaflow. Looking at their products, kind of initially, they actually, a lot of it was looking at the different disorders that they support really as well. So getting a real insight into what PKU is and lots of the other metabolic disorders as well. And then from that, kind of how their products fit into that, and how they, patients use their products to help manage their conditions. So yeah, and within that as well, I wrote a little bit of a paper. I looked at some clinical trials that they'd done, and as part of my placement, I had to kind of analyse the results and write up a little bit of a paper with support from a research dietitian there. So I found that quite interesting as well.
You're in like in a big tunnel sort of thing.
Sorry.
No, it's got. I think like so when you first then found out about PKU through this placement kind of thing, what was, if you can think of what your initial kind of understanding or thoughts about it were in the grand like landscape of things, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so I guess kind of when I learned about PKU, it was, like I said, I didn't know anything really, but we'd done like one lecture on it, I think, and then I went to VitaFlow and learned a bit more about the condition, and it was interesting to kind of to learn more about it, and also to see how a dietitian can support within these conditions as well. So that was quite interesting, and also I suppose further on from that, when I kind of realised what generally in the UK. The management at the moment is very much, dietary treatment for life. Obviously, hopefully, we're trying to get Kuvan as well in the UK, but there'll still be patients that will be requiring that dietary treatment for life. And from looking at that and then moving on and doing some of the research with Anita, it kind of made me realise that although there are products out there and patients can, there is this dietary treatment out there, which is great. But there's definitely still areas of that could be improved to kind of best support patients as well. So I think that also kind of further motivated me to want to work within PKU, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of seeing where there's areas that can be like enhanced, improved, and kind of seeing where you can make a mark in a sense. I guess it's like when you wanted to try and get into something.
Yeah.
So obviously you haven't just been looking at PKU from an outwards kind of perspective, and I think over the last month you decided to take a plunge and do the diet for a week. So how did that come about? What's your reasonings? And then I'm gonna do a food diary like dietitians do to us patients. Do a food diary back to you. So what inspired you to do this?
So like I said, I've worked on the project with Anita. We actually published it at the end of June, I think it was, and kind of off the back of that, and then working on some other kind of work as well with Anita in terms of further research. But I would like to specifically, at the moment, in my current job, I'm a kind of a general dietitian in a hospital, so I don't actually work within metabolic disorders. It's just the stuff that I'm doing kind of after work on the research side of things. But I would really like to get into metabolics and actually work as a metabolic dietitian and, with patients with PKU. So with that in mind, I just thought it would be really good for me to gain a real insight into what it would be like to live with PKU. And so we decided, I spoke with Anita about it as well, and decided to do it for a week. And I think doing that for a week and having that week commitment actually gave me a really good insight into what it's like. I know it's nothing compared to doing it for life, but I just wanted to get that extra insight really, and to really understand what it is like to, especially just for a week, just to see how it is.
I think it's a lot better than doing it for a day, certainly. So what were the parameters that you set yourself for the diet then for the week? So
I went with 6 exchanges a day, so 6 grams of protein a day. So I got in touch with VitaFlow and also Movelia just to get some samples of protein substitutes and low protein foods. And then I am quite a planner when it does come to food, really. So like each week, generally when I do food shopping, I'll be thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to have like for these 6-7 meals. And I do that anyway, but I definitely had to consider a lot more when I was doing it, obviously for the diet for a week.
How did the planning change for you then? Like in terms of, you used to planning, but how does it, when you've got restrictions of the 6 grams? How did you tend to spread it out across the day?
Yeah, no, that was really hard, and I think I initially was almost like trying not to eat any protein at all, and then I was like, oh god, I've got like these six exchanges to like use now because I've been like really restricted in it. So it did take a bit of a while to kind of get used to where I was going to use them. I must say I felt a bit bad about doing this, but like I really love tea, and tea with like normal milk. That's like I'm a bit of a tea addict. So I did try it with just what did I use? I tried Pro Zero and also the Mervelia milk replacer as well. But I did end up having to measure out, like I was quite specific, so I'd measure out like I think they round it up to 30 ml in like the NSPKU, like the guidance of being 30 ml of normal milk being 1 gram of protein. But I did end up like measuring out like 27 ml of milk to go in my tea, and I did do that a couple of times a day.
So you used your exchanges on tea. That shows how much you like tea.
I know. I was really trying to not. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go for like green tea this week or something. But then I did end up having to go back to normal tea with normal milk.
So. Yeah, six. Obviously, I have 9, so but 6 is quite a good medium, isn't it? In terms of that, gives you that idea of the general consensus of what the range that people would have, and there are people that are on 5 and 6. And I think the one that I did, the podcast I did a month ago with Killian, I think he was on 6. So it's like it's quite, but it's hard to spread. I think it would be hard to kind of spread because I know nutritionally you're meant to spread it out. But 6 is hard.
Yeah. So I would generally use I think it was about 2 in the morning. So I'd have like a free from bagel, or what else did I have? Like just some cereal, which generally was about 2. Like was two exchanges used in the morning. And then what else did I do? Yeah, I struggled in the day to try and think of something to have. So what I ended up doing, again, because I generally would like meal prep if I could. So I just made quite a lot of, I either used like leftovers from what I'd had the night before for lunch, or at the weekend, I made just like a big batch of like veg pasta. So I used that generally for some of my meals in the day. I think what else did I use things on? Exchanges on like potatoes or like cauliflower or broccoli or something, or coconut yogurt. That was another one I used. So yeah.
Oh, okay. That's the exotic day. That is. But no, I think it's that I find free foods, snacks or free food meals is really hard to do. So like non-exchange based meals, because most meals, unless you're using a lot of prescription products, most meals require some form of protein or exchange, doesn't it? So it's but no, I think like and you did some cooking, and it's like there's a lot more cooking from scratch, isn't there? I guess in the diet. Did you find that? Yeah,
definitely. And I think it was getting used to. I think I spoke to you about it when I was actually doing it, but like the weighing of everything as well, or like I think I made, when I first made something, I think I made an error of like putting like the broccoli in, and like I think I was making like a curry or something, and then I was like, oh no, like I need to weigh it, like, and like trying to get it out to like weigh it again at the end. What else did I do? It was things as well, like if I didn't feel like I could finish a whole meal and I know that I'd made it and it had like one exchange in or something, I was like, well, now I need to like eat all the broccoli that's in there so that I know I've had like one exchange. If I was going to save it, it was quite, and I imagine, I don't know if that's something that you I don't know if you think of when you're cooking, or if you save something.
Yeah, no, you're coming against the early stages that you have of like when you put the broccoli in the curry, you're like, I just have to eat all this now. Like you just have to munch it, or like you're saying, sieve it out, kind of thing. Or like there's weird things that are like you don't realise until doing that. Like you weigh obviously rice afterwards, whereas when I first started cooking, I weighed the rice when it was dry.
Yeah.
And then put it in and go, it's a completely different weight when it comes out. And it's these little, it's these things that if you don't weigh, you don't really notice.
No,
but then when you're doing the diet, you kind of have to know these just on the top of your head. It's quite hard, isn't it? It's quite weird in that sense.
Or like I'd made, I think it was when I did I did some cauliflower steaks, and I made quite a bit, and then I was quite sad because I couldn't eat it because I didn't have enough. Like I think I ate 2 exchanges worth, and that was all I had left for the day. And I was like, oh no, like there's left cauliflower, and I can't, I can't have it. And so. Yeah,
but I think it's really good that you're learning this stuff, because then it's what did the diet for the week then? And obviously we'll say that it wasn't just food, you also did medicine, but we'll get onto that because that's a completely different thing. What do you think you took away from doing it for the week? How would your approach now change when working with a PKU patient?
Yeah, I think it is just a general. It's just more of an understanding of the challenges that are faced, I think, really, as well, and just like the food labeling as well. I think that's something that I think I've always been aware of, through looking on Twitter and through research as well, of the challenges and how food labeling can be inaccurate and can be confusing. But I think there's definitely from doing it myself, a greater understanding and appreciation of how challenging that is when you're going food shopping as well. So I think definitely more of an understanding of that. And even just, I suppose, like I said, with the cooking, and lots of the planning and the preparation that has to go into it as well. And I think particularly if it was dealing, if in the future it was dealing with kind of parents that have children, even a greater understanding of I was saying, oh no, I've got to eat all of this so I know what's going on with my exchanges. Say if you've got a child that's kind of refusing to eat a bit of that, or some broccoli or potato goes on the floor, and then all of a sudden they don't know how much their child's had as well. So I think just a real greater, I guess, just an understanding and almost more of an empathy of how difficult things can be. Yeah,
and I think finding those you'll find workarounds, won't you, that you probably wouldn't consider when trying to look at it without doing it. Actually, this is how you could do it. And like you say, I think the parents and kids ones is a huge thing, isn't it, of how to get people to eat, and learning quantity, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's exchange foods that are small quantities that you could just get into people, or things that are less and you'd have to have more of it, like you had to eat the whole broccoli and the curry. But and you did medicine too, which I think is, people can restrict their protein, but medicine is a different kind of different thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I got them from VitaFlow. So I just asked to send me kind of all the possible ones they do. So I tried Sphere, Express, Coolers, and the PKU Air as well. I think they were all the ones I tried. Variety of different flavors as well. So I tried initially. I kind of went for so I was on 3 a day. So 320 gram protein ones a day. So for the first few days, I did literally just kind of rotate and try different ones, really. So yeah.
You've got a cocktail of medicines. So rank. Are we going to rank? We're going to rank the medicines then, and on palatability and taste and all these things. Then, how did you find it, honestly, in terms of the knowing that you have to take it too, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that repeated element.
I think again, obviously for me, knowing I just have to take it, I did take it, and again, I think. But there were definitely times where I would feel say if it was after dinner and I felt quite full and I didn't really want to, I didn't really want to have another thing, I didn't want to have the medicine, but just feeling obviously I know I've got to, and so I would, but again, I guess that's kind of thinking we were saying, about parents with children as well, just kind of, again, understanding how challenging that must be there and that element of it.
So how did you split them in the days then? Did you do a wake up, breakfast and dinner one, obviously? So where did your middle one sit then that you...
So that would be at lunch, that would be at work, so I'd have that at work.
How did that go down? Did people...
Yes, that was quite interesting as well. So obviously, I mean, I do work in a team of dietitians, but then again, so in the hospital I'm in, it's a district general, so we don't have any, metabolic dietitians or specialists, and it's even interesting to realise how little the dietitians that I work with kind of know about, metabolic disorders and PKU as well. Obviously, there is some understanding from learning about it and an awareness, but not as much, not to the extent of kind of what we're discussing. And yeah, so that was quite interesting.
And how was it? Did you take the ready-made stuff then?
So I did, and I do think that was helpful. And I think if it was something that I was having, every day and on a diet for life, I think I would feel that was the easiest option. I don't know what your thoughts. I don't know what you do. You take one to work?
So I normally have mine about 4:00.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Okay.
But typically I am at work when not working at home now. But when I am out and about, I do have it. And I think I'm slightly got a different perspective a bit because I remember the times when there wasn't ready-made. So for me, the premise of like you just do ready-made on it's just a given. Like it exists now, so you might as well use it. Whereas before, you used to have to make it up with cold water and stuff, with powder, which I'm no scientist, but cold water and powder isn't the most dissolving. So, I always take it out and about. But I think it's what did you find with confidence then? Because obviously this is like a new thing and that sort of thing, and it's like you're sticking to these routines, and it must be. Did you feel conscious when drinking them a lot more than you would have if it was like tea? Yeah,
I think maybe a little bit. There was a bit of an element of kind of getting my lunch and then like getting either the air or the cooler out, and it was I know what you mean. I think I was definitely more aware of it, and then I knew because they knew that I was doing the diet for a week as well, and you are kind of just waiting for that comment on it. Do you know what I mean? Like where like nothing, people would ask, "Oh, how are you getting on?" or whatever, but there was definitely whenever I took it out, there was always like a bit of a comment or like wanting to kind of look at the packaging or something as well. More of an interest in it.
They've tried to make the packaging look a little bit more accessible, haven't they?
Yeah. And there's not much on the packaging to read anyway. I think it literally just said like PKU air or like.
Yeah, it doesn't have all the stuff on the boxes that you get, and you're like, oh my god, this is actually quite a lot of stuff in here, which I've only ever read a few times. Out of all the labels I check, I do not check many of the prescription products. We do have a few questions that I'll ask before we go on to like kind of your post diet for life and how the guilt that you feel about protein. So Tamara says, I've had a look at George's paper on the nutrition of free food products, which was very interesting. How does she think the nutritional profile of prescription foods could be improved?
Yeah, okay. So I think, like I said, again, it's great that we do have these prescription foods, and it's definitely really important that they are available, and they have improved over time, but I do still think there is scope for them to be improved further, just to help in terms of people's health and just generally just for kind of health and well-being as well, really. So I think they could be improved in the sense of some of the products. Again, it's not all of them, so I don't want to specify things to like put people off, because that's not, they do have their benefits and they are important. But one of the big things, well, not big things, but some of the products, even though they're low protein foods, some of them you do still have to count them kind of as part of your exchanges as well. So I think that's really confusing for some people.
I've always found that odd.
Yeah, so especially because it's on prescription, it is a special low protein food, and obviously they are significantly lower in protein than other products that you are buying. You wouldn't be able to buy from the supermarket, but you're still having to count them, which is definitely an added confusion to patients and parents.
Yeah, I think that's why I have the milk I do, because like I know you can get some milks that you have to count, and I'm like, why would I want to do that? I'm okay on 9 at the moment, but obviously, if you were at the 6 that you've done for your diet for life, it's like, why would I give up something for something that I have an alternative that is free?
No, definitely.
Unless I don't know, it might taste amazing. But, like, for me, I don't want to give up any exchanges. So.
Yeah, there's just definitely there's that added complexity, isn't there? And it's just extra confusion as well, because some people might not even check the label and just think, oh, this is my low protein food, and and just think and just take it. And I know, like, when I was doing the diet, I was checking and I was like, oh god, like I've got to count this one, and like it would only be quite minimal amounts, but still, like, it still contributed to the 6 exchanges.
No, I agree. I think it sends out a mixed message, in a sense of for me there should be a split of the prescription is all free.
Yeah.
And then anything that you buy outside of the prescription is the stuff that you count, sort of thing. Yeah. And I think that's a lot. I think probably because I live that life rather than having anything that you count, it makes it a lot easier than think, here's half an exchange here, here's half an exchange there, and it's not great with the consciousness, is it? So Anita has asked a question. So when are you going to transfer to paediatric dietitians, or will you stay in adult dietetics?
I would happily go to work in paediatric dietetics, to be honest. I think I've always been interested in paediatric dietetics, and also particularly within metabolics as well. So yeah, I would transfer whenever. Maybe Anita can give me a job. Maybe that would be the help.
I think you've answered your own question there, Anita. So, I get. Well, Anita, give her a job. But I think what we're saying about the nutritional profile, I think is because when I was seeing you when you're making your foods, obviously and I try and live a bit like this with having maybe one prescription item and then have loads of things around it, sort of thing, because it is quite calorific and quite starchy and carb heavy, isn't it? So did you, because obviously you're very health conscious, did you make like a concerted effort of splitting where you had the prescription stuff?
I think I was definitely I was aware of it, something to be mindful of, and again, kind of, I suppose with that, in terms of looking at the nutritional profile of these foods and thinking of improvements as well. Some of the products as well contain added sugar, where, like, say, if you compared it to like a regular food, that wouldn't contain added sugar as well. So I'm going back a little bit here, but like that's another thing where manufacturers could improve the composition, and looking at which kind of carbohydrates that they use in the products as well. Like you said, it is the diet as a whole, because you are eating less protein. It can be, there is that tendency for it to be a bit more carbohydrate heavy. So yeah, it's definitely something that I was aware of when I was doing the diet and looking at what I was having each day. I mean, I love vegetables as well. That's quite helpful. So like aubergines, courgettes, peppers and mushrooms are like my go-to vegetables generally on a day-to-day basis, so that was quite helpful.
I can't agree with the courgettes. No. The rest of them are good, but courgettes are they're just a bad cucumber in my head. So it's but I think it's interesting though, isn't it? And that's why I was quite interested to hear how you found the diet, because we're so drilled into it that you kind of take things for a bit of a given or granted or that sort of thing. Whereas when you're coming at it I'm looking at this from a broad perspective.
Yeah.
And here, and this is probably why, the papers and stuff that you've been either doing or looking at doing is really good, in the sense of going, okay, how can this be improved? How can it's great that we've got it, but how can we get it better, in a sense, rather than just be happy with it because it exists.
Definitely. And I think you can even see that from like the protein substitute side of things, can't you, in terms of the palatability and what was available initially, like you were saying, with always being a powder and mixing it, and there's definitely been it's improved significantly over the past few years, but there's always room to continue to improve it even more and look at what else is available and how we can make sure that we're providing the best treatment possible. Really.
Well, I guess you must have found that a bit, because obviously you had like GMP medicine compared to ready-made, which I think is you may Anita or you or whatever might, it's probably about 10 years old now, the ready-made stuff is, and it's like, did you taste much of a difference in kind of how things have improved?
Definitely so I think, I know you were saying earlier about ranking the protein substitutes. I do think the Sphere was my favourite one. So I think definitely more palatable than the others, in my opinion. I know people might disagree. But I could definitely taste the difference. Like, I liked having the ready-made ones because it was easy and it was straightforward. Or say if I even just like waking up a bit late for work and needing to make sure I had something before I went, it was the ready-made ones were there, so I could take them. So it's definitely helpful. But I think in terms of taste, I thought the GMP one was better.
And I think that is interesting, because that's the most recent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is like you're saying, the improving element, and I think that's probably why companies look at improve rather than just go, we've got the medicine, great.
Yeah.
They can be happy with that because they've got no other options. Whereas it's like always that striving to improving, which I think is is good. Tom, do you think that is why you make free dinners, so as not to avoid the complexity? I think free dinners are hard if you don't have a lot. For me with inventiveness, but free dinners are hard or free food or free from exchanges. Yeah. It's hard without the use of a lot of PKU products, and I think it's that kind of trying to balance that weight PKU products. I know that I get my PKU products basically for free because I paid the prepayment, which is very generous. So it's that. I think free food dinners is hard to do in quantity without the use of prescription-based products. Is my answer to that. Sharon said, "Did you eat out during your week on diet?" Obviously, probably not with the COVID thing, I'd say.
No, so I didn't.
How do you think your approach would be with that?
Yeah, so I did think about this. So at the moment in my hospital, because of the COVID thing, they were offering free lunches, which has been really good. And I did consider it. So there is one thing, I think on like a Wednesday, they do like a vegan curry, which is really nice. I do quite like that. And I was just a bit anxious about it, really, in terms of whether to, and I didn't know how to approach it either. And I was going to ask you a bit in terms of if you've ever, what's your approach, I suppose. I know, because I thought it would probably be okay, but then I was thinking like, oh well, what stock have they used, or what if they put some? I don't know. I just was thinking like, sometimes they change the vegetables from week to week, so it could actually not be like last week's didn't have any exchange vegetables in, but what if I go this week and then all of a sudden there's like loads of ones that so I didn't, but I was tempted, but then I wasn't sure, and I imagine that quite a lot of people probably feel like that often, perhaps. But,
I think you in a way, this is what was great about the week thing, is that you're finding out the things of like I guess people might find this a bit weird, because I know some people try. I've never had a school dinner, so I've only ever take packed lunch to school, probably because of the exact thing that you're saying. With it may look okay, but I can't purely guarantee a clear exchange value, or this is definitely free, or this sort of thing. And I think that even stems to when I go to restaurants, that I try and not pick complicated like meals of like loads of different components. So I try and or pick all the small components, or just intricately ask. I think in a restaurant though, you're probably more inclined to ask than possibly the scenario that you were in with the.
Yeah.
They're providing you this service, so you should be okay. Yep, I'll have this sort of.
Yeah.
Like,
And that as well, like you'd go into the canteen, you know, you very much kind of rush through, like, what do you want? And I'd feel like if I was there, like, like, can I just check if this has got like this in or that? And I was a bit like, oh, I don't know, I just won't. But again, it was, you know, because it is frustrating, because it'd be helpful if it was more clear, and it would make it a lot easier, wouldn't it? But, yeah.
Yeah, I think actually what you've experienced there is, and people might correct me in the chat a little bit, because obviously I've never had a school dinner, but I've seen from afar on my tables. I just get to eat quicker when I don't have to queue up. But that is the same premise. You don't want to rock the boat in terms of asking people. When you're in that kind of canteen, just be grateful, have your food sort of queue idea. So, but I do think it's a little bit different with restaurants, because you're paying them. So yes. I think from my perspective, it always changes a bit more now, because you should be providing me with all the information that I require. Whereas certainly when there's a canteen involved, it's a bit harder, isn't it, in that regards. So we have... Anita says, have you messages to low-protein food manufacturers about food labelling? So,
do I have any messages?
Yes.
So, oh, yeah. Yeah. So
where do we start?
So that kind of touches on some of the research I did initially last year, and that is some of the research that I took to the ESPKU conference in Turkey as well. So from doing my project and looking at the nutritional composition of low protein foods, obviously that meant looking at the labelling and what information they had available on these products, and it just became really quite frustrating, because sometimes it wasn't clear. Some places didn't actually have all the information available online, had to contact the companies directly. They often didn't give any detail on kind of the micronutrient composition, so like vitamins and minerals as well. And so it's quite frustrating, you know, as a consumer, or as someone with PKU using these products. It's if the information's not accurate. So sometimes the information that we looked at on websites didn't match the information on like data cards that were like sent in directly from companies. So yeah, I think the main message would be is just that this information needs to be accurate. It needs to be up to date, and it needs to be available for everyone. So, you know, if you're using these products, you need to know what's in them, and it needs to be really clear. And I think particularly if, like we were talking about, if products do contain if products are going to contain like phenylalanine or ingredients that have, you know, that are a source of phenylalanine, that needs to be really obvious as well, because you need to know what you're eating. Yeah.
And I guess that makes it harder from your position too. Certainly when recommending products or
definitely
getting, you know, obviously we all have to do this. What's your food diary when we go to a clinic and that sort of thing. So when things are a bit awry, it's harder to go, oh, maybe you could try this pasta instead of this pasta, because they've got more, you know. I know they've only started, well, not only started, but I started taking Omegas when I was like 13, and then slowly they've decided that it should be in the medicines and stuff, and it's like, yes, this stuff should be in there, and that, you know, it's you don't want to be missing out on things just because you should be grateful for having it, if you know what I mean. So.
No, absolutely, yeah, and particularly when the diet is so restricted already in terms of what you can get from your kind of, you know, typical like day-to-day foods that you're buying in the supermarket, and you do want to know the prescription food that you are having and your protein substitutes as well. You want to know what's in it, don't you? So
well, yeah, the prime example that I have was I was on cooler, ready-made cooler for years, and obviously I'm vegan. And it was only until I was like, I've never checked the back of this box. Let me check the back of it. And then you open up the booklet and it's just so many words that I don't have a clue what they are.
Yeah.
But then the only thing that I spotted, which was the thing that I needed to see, was that it came from fish. Their Omega came from fish. Yeah. And I was like, right, so then, I don't want to have this because of my beliefs and all this sort of stuff. And I know that their beliefs are not necessarily the diet, in a sense. But they could also be cultural beliefs too. Yeah. And then I found that low flex came from plants. Yeah. So, and then when I went to, I think, conferences, and I went up to and they were like, "Oh, what medicines do you have?" And you feel a bit awkward because you say "I used to have you, but then I'm on a different." And they look at you like you're the devil and you've left them and you're a traitor. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, it's because you've got fish in your thing. Yeah. And like we're saying about the discrepancies between the companies, the people on the stands didn't know that. Yeah. And I was like, surely, and this is where you're saying about the cards say different to the website, and it's just a bit like you have one job in a sense, is to provide this stuff that you could provide it a lot more clearer. Yeah. So, but that's my experience of weird labeling. Yeah. No. But those boxes are confusing. So.
Yeah. I think it does just need to be. It just needs to be really clear, really obvious, accurate, and it all needs to be available for anyone to access, really, if they need them to.
Yeah, certainly. Do you know how they check food? This might be quite. So obviously we they've said that the almighty gods of PKU. But basically, we couldn't have avocados, but now we can have avocados. Yeah. We used to be able to only have one banana a day. Now we can have multiple bananas.
And they check
Do you know how that comes about at all, or?
I don't. I'm afraid.
There you go. It's still the mystery of the gods of PKU. That is. I'm sure that there's a lot of scientific testing, isn't there?
Maybe Suzanne might know that, or Anita perhaps, but I don't, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Anita and Suzanne, I think, will probably be the best. But for me, it's still just the gods of PKU, which is just
it's really very helpful that they do it. So
I hear it costs a lot of money to do it too. Anita corrected me, and it's 14 years ago that the first paper on liquid protein substitute was within 2006. So there you go. I was close with 10 years. Tamara says that the week seems to have given you a valuable insight, and I think that kind of brings us back on to post this. How do you find yourself looking at food differently?
Yeah, definitely. Like I was saying to you, wasn't I? When I first, so I did it a Friday to a Thursday. So then the first Friday that I had where I could eat protein again, I almost felt a bit guilty. It was a bit weird. I was like, oh no, because I had done it for that week, and it was really helpful and it was really useful to do. And it just, I think, because it made me understand it more. I don't know. And then when I started to have protein again, I was a bit I was almost tracking how much protein, normal protein I was having. And I was like, oh gosh, I've had my whole week's worth that I've done last week in a day. And it was a bit weird.
You were conscious eating anyway before. Now you just have more information to know.
Yeah, much more aware. But no, it's really helpful. And I think it still made me kind of going forward. Just doing that for the week has given me that insight, and even moving forward now, and I feel like I'll check labels and I'll look at things, and I think it's just almost helpful for my knowledge, how much protein's in something, or if this could be, how many exchanges this might be, just looking at products in the supermarket and things. So I think it has been very helpful.
So how did you find the labelling within supermarkets and stuff like that? Is that because obviously that's a big... Yeah. Some companies are good, some companies aren't, kind of thing.
Yeah, so it was... I don't think I came across any really bad labelling when I was looking at stuff, and because I kind of already had in my head certain things that I was going to buy. I think it wasn't too bad, really. I think the thing I found was more that I just kept constantly checking the label and checking that this was exchange free, or how many grams of this do I need, or working it out, or being okay, so this has got this much protein in, but actually when I'm looking at the ingredients list, there isn't any exchange ingredients listed here. Okay, so I can use this. I found that side of things, and I felt like before I did the diet, I felt like I knew it quite well. And then when I was doing the diet, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I do know. Like, and I was like second guessing things. So, and even like like checking things again. And I think I messaged you at one point just to clarify certain things, because I was I guess I just wanted to make sure I was doing it correctly. And I suppose that's also that must be the worry and panic that people perhaps, I don't know if anyone feels like they've ever experienced that, or maybe as a parent experienced that. But yeah,
I think to be fair, as more and more products come out,
yeah,
you're always learning still. So
yeah,
it's that, you know, the thing that's I know it, I think, but then then you go, actually, do I? And then it's like, have I become that accustomed that I've kind of made this up or not made this up? And
or I guess if product ingredients change as well, I suppose, because they don't always use the same ingredients, do they? So that must be a
an example that I use with that is that, like, Swedish glass ice cream used to be made from not coconut.
Okay,
and it was really high in protein. Not high as in you couldn't have it, but your portion sizes were absolutely terrible. Like it was worth it at Christmas, but no other time, sort of thing. And then they changed to using coconut milk. Within their things, which obviously is a lot lower for us. And now I think a tub is like 3 to 4 exchanges, like a whole tub. So it's like, but then they don't put new and improved sort of thing on it. And you kind of make these discoveries via the community that obviously, you know, we keep tabs on, but also just discovery, and then check, like we're saying, just checking the back of a packet occasionally. And it's like, you might not know about it and then it might change. That was a positive change because I got more out of it, but it can always work the other way too. Which is hard to do, and hard to keep tabs on whether something's changed, whether it hasn't. And then you hear like rumours and that sort of thing, and you're like, oh, okay. Like we what's it called? I think Monica here said something about, I've heard that papaya helps reduce levels of protein in, which is like, again, you hear, and I've never heard that. But you know, some people can, and it's odd, isn't it? Because you've got all these different centres.
Definitely.
That sort of work.
And I think, again, thinking about the labelling thing as well, I think it is really useful having kind of the PK community on Twitter, and, you know, like the ESPKU are constantly sharing things, and everyone's sharing things, which was really, I found that really helpful for myself when I was going shopping, because I remember like flicking through Twitter and seeing like, ooh, quavers are quite a good option for like crisps. Like, I'll go buy some of those, you know, like just thinking of what I was going to include in the week. And so that was helpful, because it kind of reassured me that, like, when I still checked the label, but I was like, no, this is what they put up as well. Like on the NSPKU have shared it too. So it was definitely reassuring to see that as well.
Yeah, and it's good that stuff now takes place, isn't it? You know, it's otherwise you are kind of doing kind of what you had the experience of, which is that in the dark. Am I doing it right? You know, sort of thing. And I think for me, it's sources. It's still sources for me. With if it's less than this in 100 ml, then it's okay. So it's still a little bit of a grey area in a sense to me. But I think it's, you know, you learn and you just keep. So you're always learning. It doesn't stop. So even if you're like, I don't really think I know the diet that well. Everybody has to start off at that stage, don't they? It's. But yeah, what else have we got? So I've got Alex coming on next week. So Anita's saying that cauliflower and broccoli study will be talked about next week, and apparently
interesting.
He talks about how a lot of work is involved when we test new foods. I'm sure it is. We're not saying that there isn't, you know. It's not just you pick up something and go, avocados are now free. So we got any other questions? I think what are you currently working on then, in terms of you said Anita's tasked you with another project. So
So So I'd obviously published the one on nutritional like composition of the low protein foods in comparison to regular foods, and looking at what changes like kind of or recommendations we would be suggesting in terms of for manufacturers. But yeah, the next one I'm kind of looking at is the costs as well. So the costs of these products, and again in comparison to regular foods. Obviously, in the UK, we are fortunate, like you said, that you get that reimbursement, so you can get them through the NHS, which is really, really helpful. Some countries aren't that fortunate as well, so it can be quite frustrating. Some of the costs can be quite higher, and there's also, and you'd expect them to possibly be a little bit higher, with not many manufacturers making these products, so they are going to cost more to make. But then looking at like the discrepancies between certain companies as well, there seems to be big differences too. So
yeah, I think I'm sure he's probably not meant to do this, but I have a chemist that tells me quite a lot what things cost. More not out of annoyance, which is really nice of him. It's just more like, this is absurd how much this stuff costs. And a lot of it is, he says that, he might be like, a lot of it he says is handling fees.
Okay.
In terms of like getting the product from, say, a VitaFlow or a Nutricia, then handling it to the chemist, and then the chemist handling it or whatever. And that was, so yeah, and I do think the products obviously are very expensive, which doesn't necessarily affect us because we've got the prepayment, like you're saying, but it's that when other countries have to pick between what products they should have, that's the tough thing, isn't it? So
yeah, and then you can find, I think there have been studies that have linked that someone of like a lower like socioeconomic status can have poorer fee levels and things as well, and there's that link in terms of managing it because of the cost of some of these products in other countries, that is. But no,
it's sad. I kind of view, I say it's like a postcode lottery with PKU, which is really unfair, isn't it, in a sense? Cause it's
definitely.
It should be a blanket, it doesn't matter where you're born or what your wage or what money that you have, it should be an access to everything, isn't it? Anita says, do you have any messages for the BNF and other official bodies which list foods on the ACBS prescription for PKU? She knows you. She knows you and your opinions and your rants too.
Getting those messages out there, isn't it? So that was kind of the first bit of research I did. So when I was looking at the nutritional composition of these low protein products that are available on prescription, we first of all have to try and find out what actually is available on prescription and try and get that like concrete list. And it was just really challenging, to be honest. So like nothing, we looked at, so there was the lists from Birmingham Children's Hospital and the list that the NSPKU provide, which, it's quite well known that they are, accurate sources of information, and that's really good. But then when you look on the BNF, there were real discrepancies between what products they were saying were available and what ones they weren't, and that was even just in between their resources, so online versus their mobile phone app, and also versus the books that they have as well. So that's really challenging. So again, in terms of thinking of, so I contacted the BNF, and they just they weren't overly helpful, to be honest, and said they would get rid. They didn't even really clarify or say when they were going to kind of get around to updating anything, but it just kind of goes to show. I know the NSPKU have done some research in like prescribing issues and difficulties that you face when you've got PKU and trying to get things on prescription. And I think if the BNF hasn't got an accurate list, that's not going to be helpful, because obviously, when you're going to your GP and you're putting in these prescription requests of what is available on prescription, and then I don't know if you've experienced it, but I think it is quite, it's from looking at, the research the NSPKU have done, it is quite common that you get difficulties in getting what you want on prescription. And if your GP doesn't have this accurate list, and you're saying, well, this is available on prescription. They're going, well, no, actually, when I look on the BNF, it's not. Like, it's not helpful. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess the way that I admit around that or get around that is I don't. Other people might say this differently in the chat or who watch this. I wait a fair bit of time before when products are apparently new.
Yeah.
Or they've come out, sort of thing. I'm quite slow. I updated my prescription for the first time, I think, in 2 years a couple of months ago. And I'm sure by that time, hopefully, they've made it to the BNF. But I know a lot of people say, I think when, like, I don't know, someone's breadsticks or something came out, they were like, some people could get it, some people couldn't get it. And it weren't necessarily due to supply issues, it was more so due to locational or the information of a GP or something like that. And that's kind of probably why I avoid trying to get things straight away. But it is a frustration in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose, like, from what I need to say in terms of a message to the BNF is that they need to make sure that, like we've said before, this is in the UK, it's dietary treatment for life. So you need to be able to access these products. And if GP surgeries and pharmacists aren't given the accurate information from the BNF, then that's going to make it very challenging. So yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think a caveat onto that is that I find it surprising that loads of different companies use different suppliers.
Yeah.
So I know that if I put in a prescription, say, Nutrition will be there 2 days later, sort of thing in the chemist. Whereas, like, the smaller companies use a different supplier, and that takes a good week to nearly 2 weeks to get there. And it's a bit like, I'd rather it all just come in at once, like, rather than it do a scattered sort of random approach. So that's, I know that's got not necessarily anything to do with the BNF, but that's just like, I do think that process, like you're saying with the Diet for Life idea, the process is so outdated for what it is that it's really harder to get stuff in a sense. So it should be a lot more streamlined. And I don't know what your opinion is, because obviously there's been a bit of like campaigning a bit to have it fall at the role of the dietitian. What do you think towards that?
Yeah, I think that would be, I think it would be helpful in terms of being able, if the dietitian was able to, because you as a dietitian working with patients that have PKU, the products that are available, and what should be available. So I think that would definitely be really helpful and be really beneficial. I think there are some issues from speaking to dietitians. I think there'd be some issues then in certain sort of looking at your like the funding and the cost of that, and like managing a budget within that as well. So that might be a challenge that they then also face too. But in terms of actually helping to support the dietary management, I think it would be really helpful.
Yeah. Did you do? Oh, this is probably your next challenge. I don't know if you did, but did you do a blood test at all during your week?
No, I didn't. But yeah, I think that would have been really good actually. If I'd been a bit more organised prior to doing it, I think that would have been something that would have been useful to get involved in. Just to kind of, I guess, include everything within it really. It would have been helpful.
That's your next task then.
I'm not sure how accurate my blood spotting would be, to be honest, but I could definitely give it a go.
What, in terms of getting the blood on the paper?
Yeah. I've heard that can be quite difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I think sometimes you look like you've done it while drunk. Sometimes it hits all the time. For me, I find it weird in the sense that I don't like it coming out too quick.
Yeah.
If it comes out, and that's probably why I do mine quite not early, but I do it like just as I've woke up, because I have this idea in my head, and this is probably very unscientific, but my blood is just waking up with me, so that's why it's a bit slower. Whereas when I do it like after a breakfast, like I used to do until my dietitian told me not to because of tyrosine, then it came out really quick. and that's really hard to control. Because you're trying to, it's the awkward, like trying to look past your thumb to try and spot the drop trajectory, and it just and sometimes just the things don't line up. So I don't think I've got dyspraxia, but sometimes my blood spots make me look like I've got I have no idea where this is falling. But yeah, I think that's probably your next thing is to do your. But it's like, it'd be interesting because obviously normal people's levels are about 0 to 50, I think, or 50 to 100. I can't remember. But they do have levels. It's just very low, isn't it? So
it would have been interesting as well to see how it affected my levels doing it for a week as well. Perhaps, I don't know. It would have been. But
maybe that's something to do when you on your diet and then you go to the PKU diet and see of like, is the protein from the protein substitute and the protein from the food a like for like replacement of what you would have had normally compared to a PKU thing.
Because I think, did Anita say, did she do like bloods and stuff when she did it? I think, I don't know.
Possibly, I think. She doesn't sleep though, does she? So she should be able to do them at any time. But I think that would be quite interesting, because it's something that obviously we as PKU people can't do. Yeah. In the sense of we'll just go off diet, see what it's like, and then come back on and go, yes, it helps. Obviously, it helps. So yeah, that might be quite interesting. What other areas are you spotting that you could try and improve or look into in terms of papers?
I'm not sure at the moment, really. I guess I've been so focused on looking at low protein foods. That's just probably been my life for like the past 18 months, maybe longer. So yeah, I'm not sure in terms of other areas. You
haven't had the chance to look elsewhere.
I mean, I think obviously there's a big, I know Diliana, who was another dietetic student at BCU, had been looking, and is also now a qualified dietitian, had been looking at protein labeling, like on products at supermarkets and things. So obviously that's definitely an area that she's going to be writing up a paper in, which is really important and valuable information. I think from when I was at the ESPKU conference, there was a bit of a talk around kind of mental health and PKU, and I think that's quite an interesting and an important area that could possibly be explored further as well. I don't know what other research there is out there around that, but I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think that's the new, not new, but that's the common field now, isn't it? It's like people are ticking over. How's the bigger picture about all of this sort of thing?
Yeah.
So we have a question about PKU and weight. So Monica's brother is 43 years old and more than 100 kilos in weight, and he's a PKU person. We're scared of his health and his heart because of obviously high cholesterols. So the correlation, like I think we were talking about this a bit earlier, about the correlation between weight and PKU, and how can you do that balance from a health perspective? And
I think that it is quite, again, like we were saying with the PKU diet, it obviously, with having less kind of natural protein, there is more of a tendency for it to be higher in carbohydrates, and in terms of fat, from my research into low protein foods, it was very variable, like the fat content of low protein products versus regular foods. But there were certain products out there that were higher in saturated fats compared to like regular foods. Not all of them, but just certain ones.
What prescription products would you recommend using then as staples if you were trying to, say, lose or maintain a decent weight, would you say?
Yeah, I think it's challenging without looking at the labels as well themselves, because there is that variability between prescription products. And that was another thing that we were, and I know a study in Portugal recommended this as well, but it would also be great if like these products had like the traffic light symbols on. So, like they do in supermarkets, where you've got like green, amber and red, depending on like the fat or saturated fat content, and salt and sugars as well. But I know they don't have that. I don't think they have that just yet, but I think that could be an option that would help in supporting with weight management, definitely. But in terms of which specific products to use, I think it's hard to say without looking at the diet as a whole, and what that individual person is having. But it's definitely important to look for products that are lower, if you are looking at weight management, things that are lower in saturated fats and lower in sugars as well.
I think, looking at the equivalents or the alternatives, isn't it, in terms of like, maybe switching out this pasta for this pasta or something. It's just simple changes. It's Monica says she's embellished a bit more. So he's in Spain, so obviously they don't have PKU food. So it's just diet, and it's just basically vegetables, fruits, and supplements. So I think we said in previous thing, obviously exercise is a big thing. Exercise can improve cholesterol. Is that correct
it definitely helps.
And the supplements may. I don't know what supplements he's on, because obviously some supplements are more calorific than others, and if they're your default that you have to have them every day, it's certainly worth trying to get them down in would you say just calories or other things? What would you suggest
in terms of the supplements?
I guess because if there's no PKU food in Spain, then it's more so about the supplement usage.
So I think it's looking at which one. So I know, like, again, with like Vitaflow, like their PKU Air is like lower in calories slightly, isn't it, to like the coolers and things as well. So it would definitely be worth kind of, being mindful of that and speaking to your dietitian about what ones may be more helpful for you and maybe a better profile in terms of the calorie content and the fat content as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a thing that certainly companies are becoming a lot more conscious of, aren't they, now? It's that like we said, we have to have them. So what are they bringing to the diet? And I know a lot of people think that they bring a lot of calories and empty calories to the diet. So it's that, how do you factor that in? So Anita did do blood tests, apparently. She said her regular fee is 40.
Okay.
And then her fee went to 0 with protein substitute.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, I would like to know actually if that had affected mine.
So I think that's kind of that's your next, when you're not looking at all your low protein products.
The next,
I think that's interesting, because it shows that actually it's probably more effective than just a regular, what we think is just a substituting the protein that we're missing from. And to be fair, that's what a lot of my non-gym friends say. Is going, actually, with all the, because I have 90 a day from my low flex, they're like, you're actually probably having more protein than some days that I have. So actually, and all the nutrients and all the stuff that you're getting with that protein substitute, a lot of them go, you're actually probably more healthier than me. So it's whereas I don't think, unless you're having a big blowout meal, sometimes I don't know, could you hit 90? What that's what you should tally up what your protein is now when you're off diet.
I was thinking this even when I was doing it. I think I was chatting, and so I was on 60 grams worth of protein substitutes a day, and I think some days, because I do often eat like vegetarian meals anyway, and I think definitely some days with being on the 60 grams of protein on the PKU diet, I was probably having more protein than I'd have normally, and also definitely like more equally spaced out. Like I don't think I'd ever have 20 grams of protein for breakfast, for example. So it's a big.
Maybe you should try. No, actually, if you think about it, I have 30 with my cereal, so I have 3 grams from food and then 30. That's 33 grams. That's like half a protein shake going on there. So that's quite intense then. So Yeah, I think we set up new challenges for each other now. It's not a good thing. So I guess then, what's your with all the PKU kind of experience that you've had? What's what's the biggest thing that you've learnt, and then I don't know, your favourite story from your adventures around all of this?
Yeah, so I suppose, I mean, I've not worked directly with families or anyone that has PKU, but I've helped out at some of like the low protein events in Birmingham, and also from shadowing as well, and from also even just from being on Twitter and seeing, you know, like hearing of people's stories and things there as well. And I think one of the big things from that I took away is that, you know, there are a lot of challenges that people do face with being on the PKU diet, and it's not, you know, it's not completely straightforward. And even from me doing the diet myself, I definitely learned that even more, and was more aware of that, and probably, like I said, gained a greater understanding. But I do think from seeing, you know, like even just from your podcasts and from Tom's Kitchen as well, I think that's been really, really helpful as well in gaining a greater understanding. And I also think from, you know, your chats with like Hannah and Killian too, it's also really like inspiring to hear you talking really positively about it as well. So I think that's been really good, and seeing kind of what you've all achieved, and hopefully I think that's probably also inspiring for others too. So
I think it's, you know, there are difficulties, like, you know, the things that you kind of alluded to with when you first do the diet and that sort of thing, and there's obviously pressures that maybe a PKU person doesn't understand from family and parenting and that sort of thing. So obviously I owe a lot of my opinions and stuff towards my upbringing, but it's I think it's not really it doesn't have to be as limiting as people think it can be. And you've obviously presented at places, or you've presented a paper at the ESPKU. That's how we met. And it was a fun time at the ESPKU. And you then presented it, like that paper, verbally to.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit about what that was all about?
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity, to be honest, as well. And again, attending events like that, and also, you know, getting the opportunity to speak with, you know, like yourself and other people that have PKU, it was really, really interesting, and it was great to be able to share like my findings with everyone at the event. And it was great, you know, hear people, you know, listening and being engaged and asking questions about it as well. So no, it was a really fun and interesting experience for sure. And also being at the ESPKU and listening to all, you know, other people speak and all the research that's going on. And I think it's just a great area to be involved in, because research is just happening constantly, and, you know, everyone's looking for ways to improve the treatments that are out there, to ensure that people with PKU are receiving, you know, the best treatment based on the best available, you know, evidence and research that's going on. So
did it surprise you how much was taking place when you go to like the ESPKU or the other events, and you're like, actually, because obviously you're like so focused on your paper. It's like
No, I think even just the events taking place anyway, like it was just it was quite surreal going, I suppose, and like just seeing everything that's going on, and like you said, all the research that's taking place, and all the new possible products that are coming out, or, you know, clinical trials and things as well. It's quite fascinating how much is going on, and what's out there, and what's happening to try and, you know, improve treatments. So yeah.
And you're getting that, you know, you wanted to change, and there's areas to change, and there is. You're finding areas that, you know, although obviously it's been around for a bit of time, it's still that there's a long refinement process, isn't there, involved, and especially a lot of other research. And I think it's that the wider research, not just the like trying to find replacements for the diet treatment in a sense. I think the wider research is really useful.
Definitely.
I think you've kind of answered this, but do you work with PKU adults currently, or is it just you're just general, aren't you? And then it's that desire, and hopefully Anita's going to offer you a job. And then would that be in a pure dietitian role? Is that the next step, or is that?
I think ideally. So yeah. So at the moment, I'm not working in metabolics at all, except for the research that I'm doing on the side. But yeah, it's definitely
by night.
The aim is, and the dream would be to work as a metabolic dietitian, definitely. And I think it would be great to be able to split. I don't know what's available, but if it was possible to be able to split the time, like clinically and within research as well, I think that would be really good, because it is important that research continues to happen so that we can try and further improve everything, really. So, yeah.
There you go. I think it's that kind of, you'll either have to do that again by night, so research by night kind of thing. Or do it side by side. But hopefully, I think it's like, and I guess doing things like the diet makes you go, look, I'm still actively thinking about this stuff rather than just waiting to be told to think about it, in a sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
What item do you think is currently missing from prescription foods that she would like to create if she was to, and why?
Oh gosh, that's really interesting. Oh,
I could have easily told you many items about 10 years ago, but thankfully they've been filling out. So
yeah, there are quite a few out there now, aren't there?
More snack stuff.
There's definitely.
It's a lack of snacks.
Yeah, there is, isn't there? I'm trying to think anything that I really missed, when I was.
Yeah, because obviously, that's part of where the companies come from, isn't it? Is that trying to find, and this is what typical people eat.
Yeah.
How can we make this
other things? Yeah, definitely.
Would it be the ready meal idea? Or
that would be quite helpful, wouldn't it? I think, if you think about it.
I'll go on my item, and then while you have a think, then I like my items. Tom rants about prescriptions. My items, if I'm trying to alleviate time, would be ready meals.
Yeah.
I was quite sad that I tried. Well, I ordered was it the lasagna or risotto? I ordered the risotto from Tyrannus, and on the website, maybe it didn't, or maybe it didn't say it had milk in. So obviously, I wasn't going to have it. So it was a bit like, and I was thinking of all these ideas, and I was like, I could take it into work, I could microwave it, it's really easy. And I do think it's that ease that of a meal. But I know I joke about snacks, but there are snacks. It's that meal element of ready-made. Because I don't think anything necessarily, apart from, a pizza base which gets you half the way there.
Yeah.
But you still have to do your topping. Gets you that immediacy for working. Certainly. Yeah. That's that would be my field in what I'd like them to look at, in a sense. Because I think it's that. I think that really could alleviate an issue, especially in adult PKU.
Yeah. No. I think.
But that's me being selfish and being lazy from time to time. So, have you got? What about you then, Georgie?
I think there are quite a few out there, but I sometimes just wonder whether there could be just further improvements in them as well. So I know there are some of the I'm trying to think, some of the Proman things. I've not actually tried them, but they do the mac and cheese and the tomato pasta sauce, pasta and tomato sauce and random things like that. Have you ever tried those? Where you add water to them?
Yes, yeah. So I used to have pasta and sauce.
Yeah.
Which I lived off when I was at work.
Yeah.
What changed about that? Did they put milk in it? Can't remember. I think it's because they put milk in it. So it still exists.
Yeah.
But I used to live on that when I was for a good year. I had pasta and sauce nearly 3 or 4 out of 5 days a week.
Yeah.
For lunch. And then I kept increasing the amount that I got from prescription. But I just crave a quick meal. That's
that's what I was thinking, because they are quite quick. But I've not actually tried them myself, so I wouldn't know whether there could be scope for improvement of those or not.
I'd always say size, but that's because I'm a greedy person. But I do. Yeah, I think that's not a bad shout with the.
Well, like I know, like they obviously Promin do like the hot breakfast options things as well, which I did try one and I wasn't a huge fan. Like a porridge kind of equivalent, but I don't know if there's scope to have something that's more, because I quite like porridge, but obviously couldn't have that in the week of doing the diet, being on the 6 exchanges. But yeah, like if there was ever, because there is the option, isn't there? Because I guess the Promin hot breakfast would be what you might have instead of having something like porridge. But I think I wasn't a fan. But if there was something that could be developed that maybe was a bit tastier and a bit more.
Was it just not like porridge then?
No.
I think,
not in my opinion anyway. People might think differently about it. Obviously, that's just me. But yeah, I feel like, because I think they have done, like I think I did it. There's like 151 products available on prescription, maybe more.
Wow.
So there are quite a few low protein products out there. But it's just, I think there could be room for maybe some improvement in some of them. Perhaps.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with the amount of pasta stock they have. There's every company's got its own pasta.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, the prescription products break down to be, this is going to show my mindset, so I now have the Tyrannus like little yogurt things.
Yeah.
Instead of having the cocoa yogurts, and it saves me money.
Yeah.
They're free. Like the cocoa yogurts, I think like 0.5 or something, so they're pretty low. So it's not necessarily.
Is it like a yogurty texture, that one?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's obviously it's raspberry in quotations, because it's never seen a raspberry in its life, or caramel. So it's they replace an item that I probably would spend money on. So I have prescription products that do that.
Yeah.
And then I would like prescription products that would, like you said, do something that I can't physically have out there.
Yeah.
And I think obviously you've got pastas does that, because obviously you'd have to.
Yeah.
Anita said something about bread. So what about different types of bread products? I do think that's got better. And I do think like pita breads, brioche, croissants, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Or like a wrap, that would be quite good actually.
Yeah,
they don't do they? Because I quite like I'd normally have something maybe like fajitas or something. Yeah, that's quite good. I'm just thinking about it. So I know that you can make like the wrap style things, can't you, from using flour, but it is quite fatty.
But I think it's that ready-made idea.
Yeah, definitely.
That it's there. I think is a good equivalent, and I think I'd always say with new prescription products, is it basically replacing a thing that you physically can't have?
Yeah.
And as long as it's replacing something that you physically can't have, then one, you can argue with GPs till the cows come home that you need it. Whereas if they said to me, could you have some fruit yogurts out in the supermarket? I can. So it's not necessarily it's alleviating, it's more just saving me money. So I want it always to be, it should be something that I haven't had. In a sense, I can't have. We've got Monica's quite happy with the bread from Ravella. You can just open and eat it. Yeah. You just eat it. Oh my god, you don't eat it without toasting. Oh, I only do that when I'm on holiday and I don't have a toaster. I miss a toaster when I'm on holiday.
Try even with you, Tom, with your kettle.
I just have a whole kitchen on my travels. So I think I might get pulled up then. The kettle's enough.
Yeah.
So you had hot medicine.
Yeah, I did. I tried it with the Express.
What was your thoughts?
It was all right. It wasn't. It didn't make it any worse. Like, it was just pretty standard.
Didn't make it any worse.
Yeah, it was. I was quite happy with having it with like hot. But I didn't know. So I boiled the kettle and then poured like majority in, and then topped out with a bit of cold water. Like you said, I didn't want it to be completely burning me.
Yeah, I think it's like 2/3 hot, and then
Yeah.
a third cold to just bring down the temperature a bit.
Yeah.
Protein substitute, porridge substitute. Yeah, I think you've got to get the consistency's hard with porridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that, I do think something breakfast related would be useful. Because I know a lot of people struggle to not give up exchanges at breakfast. And especially for the low exchange lot, it would be really useful that they don't have to use it on cereal.
Yeah,
or something
definitely.
like that. So yeah.
Because there's a few cereals out there, isn't there, as well? I think low Nutrition do a few, but there's only like 3, I think, available.
Yeah, it really isn't the area of development, is it?
Yeah.
Really. So yeah, I guess at this stage, have you got any questions for me?
Yeah. So I suppose I know you've mentioned a few things of like the products that you buy, not buy, but you get on prescription.
Yeah.
So like, what are your general like go-tos then, like in terms of what you'd order?
I try and it's kind of this. I try and say, but not try and annoy people, because I know some people don't get that much. My GP just doesn't seem to care about spending cash, which is fine by me. So my go-tos, I have pasta a lot. The main brands that I have of pasta is Nutricia. I'm starting to delve into Mervelia. No, maybe Promin. Yeah, one of those that have like tricolour. I've got tricolour shells for the first time that I gotta try. Pasta and bread is the typicals, but my bread is all Mervelia. Yeah, or I make my own, but that's a rarity. What else? Yeah, so if I do a general food diary, there you go, it's dietitian talk now. I do cereal in the morning with sultanas and cereal 3 exchanges, sultanas, and the cereal at the moment is like fake cocoa pops, peanut butter things, but normally I have like cornflakes or just cornflakes. With sultanas, my milk is Duacal.
Yeah.
Super soluble Duacal, which annoyingly you have to make up. That's another frustration. I've said that many times on the cooking streams.
Have you tried the other ones as well, or is it like have to set up on Duacal?
Again, I don't want to give up my exchanges on milk, so because that's a staple every day, which is just has to take away from things. And I don't know. Snowpro is that one? Maybe. I think, to be honest, I've always been Duacal. It's kind of like a Windows or Mac philosophy. So they've got me. But they used to do glass bottles, and now they don't. So because of transportation. So now I just have to make it up all the time, which adds a bit of time onto your breakfast. I have that with sultanas. I don't weigh the sultanas. I just pour it in. But I never have more than 100 grams, because I think you still can't have more than 100 grams and it starts to count. Yeah. Maybe. And then I have a fruit juice as my drink. And then I eat definitive meals. It's quite weird. I don't snack. So, and then my lunch is... If I'm working, my lunch is normally snacks. But I eat enough of them that make a lunch. so cereal. Crisps... to some the Vitaflow mini crackers. Tyranna's cake. These yogurts now. A little fruit pouch thing. So kind of similar to what I had before I came on stream, which is these. or or like I have a fruit pack, like the fridge packs that you can get for fruit, and you just pour it into a bowl.
Yeah.
So I have that, and then I have that with like a squash or something. So I'm always drinking squash at all times. I probably drink more than I do eat. Of squash, as a disclaimer, not of just alcohol. And then meal wise, depends on how many exchanges. So if I use exchanges in my lunch, then obviously my meal at the end has to kind of change a little bit. But my meal then in the evening, if I've got something the next day, I normally do pasta, and I do a lot of it. And then I have exchange like kidney beans or peas or something in there. Or a potato item from a freezer, and a salad. And that's kind of my go-to, unless I'm doing a cooking stream, and then I get to eat a little bit more lavishly. But mainly that's, and then I have like fizzy pop. I always have fizzy pop in the evening. Probably not great for sleeping with the sugar, but yeah. So that's kind of, but I have 3 definitive things, and sometimes if I work, I then have like a snack about 4. I hate having medicine on an empty stomach. So I always have to eat before I have medicine. Otherwise I feel ill. For 1 to 2 hours, which isn't great. So that's kind of a general food, but mainly prescription products would be pasta, bread, milk. They're the 3 that, apart from my medicine, I never miss off. And then the other ones, like I get jelly, like the makeup jelly stuff that you can do. What else do I get? The pizza bases. I sometimes have a pizza base. The Mavelia ones, because I don't like the other ones, and they always come broken.
Oh no!
Which is just like, did I want my pizza already pre-chopped? No. What else? I think that's kind of it, really. I have 2 sheets worth of prescription, but it is basically like Amazon shopping every month. But the three that I never miss off is pasta, now flour, because I have to have it for all the cooking streams. Pasta, bread, and and then the snacks, because I want to keep up the snacks.
And do you think from doing your Tom's Kitchen cooking streams, has that like improved your cooking, or like has it given you more variety? Like, do you cook more, like, you cook it for obviously the cooking stream, like have you cooked it again since?
So I actually don't buy sweet potato fries now. I used to, but then once I did you just chop up sweet potatoes, do some herbs and chili and stuff like that, and it tastes better than me getting it from the shop. Takes longer. That's my only caveat. I do actually do that a lot more. What else do I do? I'm making, when I have 4 bananas that look like they're going to go off, I make banana bread.
Nice.
I do make the stuff that I do on stream. Sometimes I don't, because sometimes it just takes a bit of time. And sometimes I've got in those ingredients just for that stream. But I've been a lot more elaborate with my pastas since doing it. What else? Donuts. I've made some donuts. I've made my waffles. I've got quite a sweet tooth. So So in a way, my cooking was so bad before I did the live streams.
I'm sure it wasn't that bad.
I didn't cook really. I did cook, but I never cooked PKU stuff. My PKU things that I do was pasta, and that was it, really. The rest of it was, everything had to be bought from a shop. So my usage on my prescription stuff was far lower. And it was kind of that financial change in circumstances a bit, and was a bit like, I should really look at this prescription stuff a bit more. But also be mindful of, like we're saying, about the weight and stuff like that. So, but if I can cook more, then I'll have more skills, and then I can kind of. It was getting a bit monotonous. With because I have 3 meals and that structure and that sort of thing. So the more I could cook, the more I felt like, you know what, I want this today. And it felt more spontaneous the more I cooked.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing that you can get to feel on a diet. So like, I did gardening today, and I came in and was like, I'm gonna have a free food dinner, relatively. Like I've got one exchange. So what can I have for my thing? And I was like, I could have salad, I could have a potato item, but then I was like, I've got some baguettes, some like Revelia baguettes. I've got 2 vegan sausages. That is like 4.7 for the 2 sausages.
Yeah.
And I've got some Violite cheese. So I made myself my own hot dogs.
Oh, nice.
And that was today, and I was like, well, it's not making. It's really easy. Just oven. It's really simple stuff. Yeah. But it felt exciting because I'd never done it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I would have just come in and would have just had the normal stuff that I would have just had, which was just salad and some potato items, and it'd be boring. Yeah. Whereas the more I've dealt for, or the more products that I have, the PKU stuff, the more I felt like I can experiment a bit more. Yeah. Which is quite a hard thing to feel like you can do on this diet sometimes. So yeah. And then I sent it to like my mum, and she was like, "Oh, that looks really interesting," and sort of thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm a lot more different now, I think. And I think that's just having confidence and
definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, cooking in front of people is terrifying to try and not get any mistakes.
So easy though, you make it look really easy.
There's a lot of things that that go wrong, but then you just like smile and wave. It's fine. It's good. We do have one more question, which was, and I think this is quite a common thing with a lot of PKU people, is this, and I think you alluded to it a bit with during the middle part of the day, is levels of hunger and fullness.
Okay. Yeah.
In a sense, did you feel more hungry? Did you feel like you were consuming more to try and combat it, or did it really not come into mind?
I don't know, to be honest. I think I didn't know. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel, like, because obviously, with the restrictions and thinking about how to plan my day out and when to have things. But I actually felt that with having the protein substitute, morning, lunch, and evening, I don't think I ever did feel more hungry as such. I found that was quite filling, and I think that possibly helped. No, I don't think I actually did feel. I think I was. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I do eat quite. So, like, I would, like, most of my lunches, I probably took quite a lot. Like, I do eat quite a lot anyway. So, like, I would take, like, a decent portion of last night's meal, or if I think either the pasta and veg sauce, or if it was, can't remember what other things I cooked. Like, I did your, like, Mexican rice. I think I took that the next day. And, I didn't feel too bad, because before I did it, I was kind of, not panicking, but thinking about, what would I do? Like, I'd normally maybe, so like in the office, quite often we might have like chocolate or some biscuits there, and I was thinking, I wouldn't be able to have those. But I did have some of the biscuits, like from Revelia, and I was thinking I'm going to have to like take these in each day, but I actually didn't use them as much as I thought I would. So I felt, I felt okay actually.
I think that's good, and I think it's like, maybe it's because of the size of food that you normally eat. I think I always have things that I can go to. So like little snacks or something like that I don't just keep in my bag, but they get bought as like a not emergency reserve, but like I'll eat this at a real push sort of thing. I know I'll be full by the rest, but maybe that might process a bit quick, or I'm doing something more exercise based. So I'm out up on my feet all day, so I'll have these little snacks, or I've said before I go to sweets, just to give me that sugar burst.
So to be fair, I probably did eat more. Like, I definitely have like sweets around, and like I don't normally eat sweets, but again, I'd normally go for like chocolate. But I remember, I think we bought like Skittles and Starburst, so they were available. Like if. Like, I might have something, but then that's the sort of thing I probably would do when I came in, but it would be like coming home from work, but I would normally probably go for chocolate or something else. Yeah. So I did have
emergency reserve of Skittles.
And also biscuits as well, like the low protein biscuits. But I didn't go to them too often.
I think it's just about having that, really. I think I know a lot of people do like struggle with it, but I think it's just trying to tell yourself that you're just going to top yourself up a bit on snacks.
Yeah.
Rather than have a bigger meal or something like that. And it's... but I think hunger's sometimes like a normal thing too. It's not necessarily a bad, It's not, shouldn't be seen as just a negative thing in a sense.
Yeah, no.
But I do think it's quite interesting because I know that is a big thing that people do, like actively say that they feel, probably because of the restriction idea, that they feel like it's restricted with the hunger idea. So
yeah, no, and I think especially like you said with the restrictions, it's not like you could just, or depending on where you are, you might not be able to nip in, and there might not be anything that you can buy there. So I think it is helpful to have, like you said, the emergency snacks on you just in case.
It's like some sort of... I've been teaching and my stomach starts to rumble about 10:30, and I know I'm half an hour into this, and I'm going till 1.
Yeah.
So, and then it's just like while I'm playing a film or something for them to watch, I'm just like shoving some dried fruit into, or like some like fruit sticks or something. Like, and then they're like, Tom, we want to go out, and I'm like, no, I need to be full fitness to teach you. But they can go off and get some snacks at a break, and I'm like, I'm just have to be there. So yeah, it's I've shoved a fair bit of food in quick before. So
yeah.
I've asked the chat if there's any final questions. So is there any final questions from you, Georgie?
I don't think so. No.
Have you? So you've said you found like the cooking things interesting and that sort of thing, and the diet I think is a great thing that you've done. And I think that will really give you an insight that some dietitians I don't know, but some dietitians might not know and I think that's the thing that you possibly will confide a lot more in a dietitian or in your go-to hospital contact, in a sense, is that I'm struggling with this, or I found this hard, or this sort of thing. And I think it's that, because that's really, for me, that's the role of the dietitian in my eyes. Is that not expertise in everything, but just an element of support and understanding, isn't it, in a sense?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, right. Well, what is for your dinner tonight then, just to get people jealous of?
Well, I think we might be having a takeaway actually as a little treat. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's your go-to takeaway meal then?
It would probably be Thai. So we'd probably go for a pad Thai, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know if can PKU people have much from Thai? I've never delved.
I'm trying to think. It would have to depend on. I mean, it's lots of like noodly things in there, and curries. They're probably there's still definitely vegetarian options in there, but it'd be worth just checking. I don't. Yeah. Yeah,
it's hard with the protein values, isn't it, with the noodles and stuff? Yeah.
It would be. Yeah, there's a few. I mean, with their curries, with their veggie curries, maybe. I don't know with the Thai, but then it depends
of what's in it.
Yeah, what's in it, and that's the thing. It's
gonna get you paranoid about eating your Thai now. So
I know. God,
for me, it's Indian because I think because of the type of cooking. It's very home based.
Yeah.
Like, so when you say give me an aubergine curry, there are chunks of aubergine in there. I don't know, and just I get them to try and just avoid peas and potatoes. And then once they avoid that, then everything I can have for free, in a sense. So.
And would you explain it to them, like when you?
Yeah. So I have like an Indian that I go to, and I think they know me. If they don't, I just go, could I just not have peas and potatoes? In my meal, and to check that there's no ghee. Yeah. That sort of thing. But I think, to be honest, because it's all cooked from scratch and they don't have set, I think I find it hard when they have like, these are the things that we cook and this is all that we do. Whereas because it's that home from the ground up idea, you can go, could I have this and not have this? Yeah. And they'll be like, yeah, that's fine.
That's good. Yeah.
So, and I think the more people have allergies, the better. in a sense, because
there's more of an awareness around that as well.
They have to become a lot more accommodating, otherwise people just won't come. So I think what am I having? I'm having rice. So I made up some Promin rice.
Yeah.
And mushrooms, onions, and garlic last night. So
very nice.
So I've got that left over.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have that with I can't remember is it Promin again? Potato cake. The potato cake that you can make up with water.
I think that is Promin.
And then fry it up.
Yeah.
And that's my exchange is one of those burgers. So I love that, and it's very beige, but
yeah. I'm sure it's very tasty.
It is tasty.
Yeah,
it is tasty. So, well, thank you, Georgie.
No, okay, thank you.
I think the chat's enjoyed. We've had some very deep questions going on, so that's good. Yeah, and we have next week we have Alex. So we're mainly getting that all of the Birmingham people. But we've got Alex Pinto, who's kind of a couple of years down the line, isn't he, from where you are? But similar trajectory in a sense. So
yeah, that would be really interesting.
But cheers, chat. Cheers, Georgie. I hope you enjoy your Thai. And obviously we'll chat afterwards, but I'm just going to have to send an end to the stream. So cheers, guys. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.
Oh yeah, thank you.